we've worked so hard to give you everything you needed. Or, we made sure you didn't miss anything. Do you know how many children there are out there who would die to give what you're getting every day and you're still not happy? Or, do you know that I could have split up from your mother or father and I didn't? I didn't, even though I wasn't happy, but I did it for you. I did it because I wanted to give you and your sister the wonderful, happy family that you didn't maybe want or cared about, but I stayed with him or her because I want you to be happy. And no matter what I do, you still don't seem to be happy. Nothing makes you happy. You're so ungrateful. Maybe these are some of the conversations that you're having with your children. Frustrating, isn't it? It may be that you're trying your best. It may be that you're really putting everything you've got into being a parent. And for some reason, there seems to be like a disconnect between your good, warm wishes and them who just don't feel to be really touched or impressed by that. And they just don't seem to be appreciative. And that, of course, causes frustration. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about this disconnect between parents and children and what you as parents can do about it so that you make sure that those resources that really need to get to them and you're putting such a hard effort to making sure that they do get them, actually reach them. Because sometimes, and I found this in therapy, working with countless families and countless parents and countless children, the story is pretty much the same every time. There is this disconnect in these kinds of families because parents don't really understand what children need, and children don't really understand how to communicate to parents what they need. And it's fantastic because the children were never parents, but the parents were children. So the parents as children should have known by now what they needed when they were children and should be able to give to the children what they themselves wanted. But actually what happens in real life is that parents forget and they get into the mindset that whatever they lived through in their childhood as children when they were children, good or bad, it was good enough. Hey, in the end, I'm here, I'm being the provider for you, so, right? Or they go to the other extreme and they say, oh my God, what I lived, Jesus, it was so hard, it was so tough, and I'm going to make sure that you have everything. And what they do, you guessed it, they overcompensate. So when they overcompensate, that's the problem. That's when actually they don't tend to the children's needs anymore. They tend to their projection of what those children need. Because, if you've eaten, food that doesn't have salt in it, it's tasteless, right? And you want a little bit of taste, right? You want a little bit of salt, right? And, if you're going to do that long enough, you're going to make damn sure that when you get someone that's going to eat the food that you eat, you're going to put salt in it, right? It's easy to see in this metaphor, right, how that food could become uneatable, right? So it's no wonder that your children might be feeling disconnected from you and you might be feeling disconnected from them. So this is what we're going to discuss today. So, maybe your child is aloof. It's like, they're in a world of their own, in a dimension of their own, and they seem somehow out of reach. They seem that they have an inner life to which you find it difficult to connect. You don't necessarily understand what they are going through. Even though you try to talk to them, and again, now it depends on the age of the child. It can be if they're at kindergarten, or if they're in the first years of school, then it may be through indirect manifestations. Like, for example, they're doing things that they wouldn't be supposed to do, and it's not like they don't know that they're not supposed to be doing that. It's like they're doing it, they get punished for it, and they do it anyway, right? Why? Why do they do that? So it's almost like they want to be punished. It's almost like they know and they do it anyway, right? It's like almost in spite of the rules, in spite of you, in spite of the teachers. That's one way for them to express anger and frustration. It's if an adult would be hitting a punching bag, there would be a release of anger. But children don't know that. Or sometimes they do, but they use another child as punching bag and they hit them. Or they express things in a very unrefined way because, they're little and their psychology is, not so developed. So they manifest in pretty rough ways. But where does that frustration come from? It's very easy to fall into the trap that as a parent, right, you may be thinking big picture. And of course, there's nothing wrong with that big picture. I mean, what are you focusing on? Making sure that the child has everything they need. And it seems that big picture, they have everything that they need. Sometimes, though, it seems like that despite your efforts, it doesn't get through. And it seems like they have some needs that they don't have addressed. You don't know what those are. You couldn't possibly imagine what those are. And yet, there are signs that they are there, right? Or, so we've talked about being, having them having bad behavior at school, or hitting other children, being aggressive, or as teenagers, right? This is very common with teenagers. They drift off into a world of their own. They drift off into a world of them with other teenagers, and what happens is that they get stuck in there, in this world in which it's about being accepted and integrated, and depending on who they have as friends, they might be encouraged to have really destructive behaviors. And it seems that it's like your grip on them is slipping, and what you say counts less and less every day, and they turn into this, teenager that has a mix of sadness and anger and what always seems to be a kind of a red line connecting everything. All these cases, regardless of the age of your child, it's like there's a distancing and you can't reach through to them. So what's going on? Or let me, I almost forgot that. It could be that it doesn't manifest in such a way. It could be that they get sick. And this is probably the most subtle part, because it's very easy to have a child getting sick, and obviously if they got sick, it's on them, right? Because it's their problem, it's their body that's gotten sick. So it's very easy to believe that it's their problem. And I've had it as a therapist so many times. I've seen it so many times when parents bring their child to me. We brought them to you, stick needles into him or whatever, do whatever you do, and make him feel better. And as we discuss and we dissect what's going on, it gradually becomes clear that there is an inner turmoil in the child. And more often than not, it doesn't start with the child. It starts in the family. It starts in the dynamic between the parents. It starts maybe in the dynamic between parents and the child. It doesn't start necessarily with the child himself. And here, this is where your power as a parent can actually shine. Because if it were only him or her, right, you wouldn't be able to really influence that. But it's not, luckily or unluckily, because it's on you as well. So this is what this video is about. Right? So enough of that. Let's get into it, okay? So what is it all about? So we're going to talk about three things. What children really want, and what you as a parent, or let's say most parents, I'm not going to put you on the spot there, right? What most parents think that their children want. And then once we compare these two, I hope that you're going to get another point of view. Now, as I speak about these things, all these things seem so very clear to me because I've seen them hundreds and hundreds of times again and again and again. It's a recurring theme. You know, part of the reason that I'm doing these videos is out of frustration because I'm tired of seeing this again and again and again and talking to each and every family and each and every parent and, you know, speaking about variations along the same theme. So I'm doing this video, so I hope that this video reaches you guys, you know, so that I don't have to talk that much again and again and again. And then finally, right, what we're going to end with is what to focus on, right? When we compare what the child really needs and what you think the child needs, we're going to analyze, you know, most areas or most common areas of disconnect and how can you approach them? How can you change your behavior so that you reconnect? Because usually when parents realize some very simple things, it's so obvious what needs to be done. And it's like parents think, but wasn't it obvious that I love you? Wow, you didn't actually know how to show it in such a way that they understand. So we're going to talk about that. So let's start. What do children want, regardless of age? They want warmth, that is emotional warmth, and presence. What does that mean? It means that you cannot just go about and resume the role of a parent, your role as a parent, as purely a provider, right? Like, for example, it happens more with fathers than with mothers because of the closer relationship that the child has with his or her mother, especially at a younger age, because the mother needs to be there to, you know, take care of him. But the father has the perfect excuse for not being there, right? They have to sustain the family, they need to work, and, you know, let's face it, more often than not, especially when the child is younger, it's so much easier to be present at the job, not at home, right? You don't want to have, you know, screaming child issues, and, you know, as a father, if you come home and you have a child, it's very easy to, you know, want to rest after a busy day, and then, you know, she crashes in front of you because she's been busy handling the child all day if the child is young. And then, you know, you have to take care of both the child because you need to take him, and her frustrations because she's frustrated because, you know, she can't wait to get rid of him. Again, this is at a younger age of the child. But what starts off at this younger age actually can really carry on because, you know, why bother? It takes some months to get into this routine. Once you've gotten into it, you can keep it up for years. And, you know, even in couples without children, sometimes this is the routine. There is a disconnect between partners. There is a disconnect between one and the other. They don't actually really get to connect. They just disconnect together. But there's no real connection between them. You know what I mean? How about, you know, we crash on the couch and we watch TV. There's no real conversation going on there. No connection. It's just, it's almost, that's the same connection that you might have with other people at the cinema. You go to watch a movie, you're together, yeah, you're together with hundreds of people. Do you spend quality time with those hundreds of people just because you're in the same room watching a film? No, you don't. Similarly here, right? So coming back to you as a parent, What do children want? They need connection, they need warmth, they need presence. You don't need to just be physically present. And I was talking about fathers, but actually it can apply to mothers as well, because it's very easy to get lost in the day-to-day activities that you need to do, right? Someone needs to wash the dishes, someone needs to cook, someone needs to, do the laundry, someone needs to do the cleaning, someone needs to do everything, right? And by the end of it all you just want to do is just crash, right? And it's very easy to get into this lack of energy stuff and just think at the end of the day, you know what, you better be grateful because I'm doing everything for you, right? And you better appreciate that. And of course, yeah, you're right? That you're doing a lot of work, right? But does the child get that? No, they don't. They have no clue about how it would be if they didn't get food, or if somebody didn't wash the dishes, or if someone didn't do the laundry, or someone, didn't pay the bills and stuff like that. What they are focused on is, do they get enough of you? Connection, a smile, an embrace. 20 solid minutes of quality time daily. I was listening the other day to a video, I think it was a TED talk or something like that, and it was entitled somewhat like, if I remember correctly, how to radically change your relationship with your child. And the main idea was this: spend 20 to 30 minutes daily of quality time with him or her. You don't criticize, you're a good listener, you enjoy your time, you're doing something that they enjoy doing. Maybe it's playing, maybe it's going out into the park, whatever, right? You don't criticize. You listen to them, you let them explain to you various things, you let them talk to you about what is important to them, and you really listen. And you're there. And that is it. And you won't be able to get them off you, right? And they will be happy because that's what they want: warmth and connection and presence. Now, again, presence can be emotional presence. You may be spending a lot of physical time with them, but not be emotionally present. Or you may be emotionally present, but gone 5 days of the week and only see them on weekends. There are people who are like that because of job. Now, I'm not saying you don't love your children if you go away because your job asks you to do that and you're absent 5 days a week, during which time they spend that time with their mother, grandmother, grandparents, uncles, aunts. Who cares? Well, the child cares, right? Because one of the biggest mistakes that parents do is that they believe that if there's somebody to take care, right? Take care of the child. What does that mean? Put them to bed, give them something to eat, make sure they're clothed, make sure somebody's, taking them to school, from school, blah, blah, blah. They're taken care of. No. From their perspective, no. That is almost irrelevant. Now, you may be outraged. What do you mean? What do you mean irrelevant? Do you know how much I work for that? Yes, I know. I'm a parent also. I do know. But they don't care. They don't. They care about those 20 minutes of quality time. If you spend those minutes with them, that will mean more to them than everything else combined. If you don't, it's not going to cut it, right? Another thing that they want, right? Emotional connection, right? So they want to feel that you're paying attention to what they say. They want to feel that when they talk to you, they don't talk at you. And when you talk to them, you don't talk at them, right? There is a dialogue. Your thoughts are molded by what they say, and their thoughts will be molded by what you say. So there is a real genuine connection. Sometimes as parents, it's very easy to slip into that, I'm going to tell you what to do and you don't have any right of saying anything, right? That's just going to put the base for a very angry teenager later on, right? And whilst you might be getting your way when the child is younger, when they grow older, they will have all that pent-up repression. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't mean by any means to imply that they shouldn't have responsibilities, or if they don't do what they are told, or they ignore the house rules, then there shouldn't be consequences. There should, by all means, be consequences. There should be consequences to everything, right? Good and bad behavior. Because these are the rules of life. In everyday life, as adults, we do have good and bad consequences depending on our choices in life. So this is good parenting, right? Teaching them about this. Okay, what else? Clear rules, right? Clear rules. And clear rules actually are based on something that comes before that, which is stability in the couple. And I think, yeah, I'll address this first, right? Stability in the couple. This is something that, this is so neglected, right? If most parents actually know that, hey, you know, yeah, of course, it's important to be present for the child, right? It's much easier to neglect this aspect. The atmosphere in the couple, the atmosphere between the two parents is going to have an incredible effect, a determining effect on the children. An amazing, incredibly different effect. Whether the couple together, man and wife, man and woman, husband and wife, get together and there's harmony and there's love, or if there isn't, right? If the couple is arguing, the atmosphere is tense. There is the archetype of the family that is so deeply ingrained into the psyche of the child that if the family, instead of being the hearth, the root, the all-stabilizing ground that provides them, your children, right, with stability and predictability so that they get the message that the world is safe and hence that they can go out and explore and be curious about the world. If they don't get that, they're going to, well, I was about to use some colorful language. So anyway, they're going to really suffer, right? Because what happens is they're going to get anxiety. And by the way, do you know people with anxiety? Guess where that is coming from? It's coming from these types of childhood, where the atmosphere in the family is so unpredictable and aggressive, and there's fighting going on in the couple, and the children see that, right? And that creates anxiety. Anxiety creates avoidance of conflict. Avoidance of conflict creates frustration and anger. Frustration and anger, if repressed enough and if they are big enough, will create panic attacks. So there you have it, right? This is how you get there. This is how you get there, right? So if you think about all the adults that you know who have anxiety, who have panic attacks, even just these two, who have autoimmune disease because that's repressed anger, this is where it starts. Repressing the anger and the conflict that is in the family, right? It is so easy to think as parents that if you provide the children with everything that they want or need in terms of education, food, you know, we've talked about this before, they are going to ignore the fact that you two in the couple as parents fight. Who gives a damn? It's your relationship. Well, they give a damn. And by the way, they may not necessarily understand what it's about. They don't need to understand what it's about. They may completely misunderstand what it's about. That's irrelevant. What is extremely relevant is that they will embody that anger, that they will embody that conflict. And if it weren't bad enough, they will embody another thing, and this is the biggest bummer of them all. They will embody what is normal to happen in a relationship. They will see whatever happens to be normal. Rationally, they might say, oh my God, I don't want this to be the story of my life. Guess what? We are coming back to something that I've talked about in previous videos again and again and again and again, and it's completely anti-intuitive, it's counterintuitive, but it's real, which is, if we humans are put to choose between safety, stability, familiarity, which is the mother of these two, and happiness, if we need to choose between them, do you know what we'll choose? Any day of the week, any day of the week. We will forsake happiness to choose stability and familiarity. And if what is familiar is aggressiveness, it's conflict, guess what? When they will become adults, they will attract subconsciously. You don't need to trust me, right? Just do your own research. Google it if you want. Google it. But it's true. They will subconsciously attract a dynamic that reflects what they've seen in the family. Again, I want to emphasize, and please let these words sink through. Despite of what they, as children, or they, as future adults, will be thinking rationally. I've seen it so many times when the person says, oh my God, I've had such a bad life in my childhood. I've seen, my parents fight, and I'm going to make sure that I'm going to get into a relationship in which there's peace and harmony. And guess what? It doesn't happen. The conflict is either overt and they can't explain how they've gotten into another relationship that mimics the same dynamic, or the conflict is covert, right? It seems to be nice and happy and peaceful, but actually it's because everyone is anxious and doesn't want to step on any other person's toes, and they avoid conflict and they keep their frustrations to themselves. It doesn't mean that conflict isn't there. It means that it's swallowed up, right? So what do children want? They want stability, right? Stability in the relationship between the parents, harmony and love in the relationship between the two parents, because that's what they will internalize. It's so true that children don't actually take in what parents say. They take in what parents do. I'll say it again. Children do not take in so much what parents say. They are much more likely to take in, and at a much deeper level, what parents do, what they see that their parents do, how their parents behave, how their parents react. 80% of communication is non-verbal. Children see that. Now, you might be falling into the so common trap of thinking that the child is too young to understand what I'm doing anyway. Yeah, cognitively, yes, that's perfectly true. That doesn't protect them from actually copying your behavior. So you need to watch out, okay? And finally, what do children need? And this one is probably the most counterintuitive thing that you could possibly think of. And this one is called, guess what? Rules. If anything, if you watch a child, they hate rules. They want to break them. They want to, be free and do whatever, right? Especially when they're older, they just want to be whatever. Actually, that's not what they need. Actually, when they get that, the unhinged child, the undisciplined child, and I'm not talking about disciplining him through hitting him or something, no. But the child that doesn't have consequences to negative behaviors and is not, put to respect rules and have a set of rules which if he or she breaks them, there will be consequences which are negative to him, that will really mess them up. And the reason for that is because What parents think that children want is freedom. Actually, it's like the rules are there for children to push against them, to push against boundaries. But it's like you're pushing against the walls of your house. You don't push against them to knock the house down. You push against them to make sure that those walls are solid. Children don't have a clue about life, but they need to feel that someone does. Someone is in charge. They want to make sure that, hey, if you push against those walls will be solid enough to contain them. So what happens when you take a child that is not used to rules and you start enforcing rules? Of course they will rebel, of course they will push, and of course there will be turbulence and there will be blowback. They won't, take new rules and new responsibilities, just easily. They will test things out and they will push. But there comes a point at which they understand that it's very predictable for them to have these rules and the consequences to them, positive if they respect them, negative if they don't. And guess what? They'll settle in. They'll be fine. They will stabilize. And this is where the magic happens. This is where the magic happens, because it's not about repressing children's needs. It's not about repressing their liberties. It's about harmony through understanding the rules of engagement, understanding the rules of the game. And it's very similar to what we adults do in life, right? If we understand the laws of how society works and the laws of success in general, the more we understand them, the more we can adapt to them. The more we can adapt to them, the more successful we are. And that's where the magic happens. Because once we align to them, poof, it happens. Nice things come to us. We have success, we have abundance, we have harmony, we have good relationships. And that's what children need to learn as well. You're really, really, really messing up your child if you don't put rules and responsibilities in his universe. Because they want them, they need them, but they will behave as if this is public enemy number one. But you need to see through that. This is why it's magical that we're living in this society. I can talk to you here and now. I'm looking at the camera, but actually I'm actually looking at you and you're looking at me. And this information can come to you and you can find out about this. And you can raise your child differently. So, what do parents think that children want? Well, parents think that children should appreciate financial stability. Say what? Financial what? Children don't understand that. And it's easy to fall into the trap that, you think that, okay, so you're a child, I know you don't understand this, but one day, that parent, when you grow up, you will have children of your own and you will understand. That day will come, yes. They will understand, but they will be talking to a therapist because their needs are not to understand at this moment, not like this, that you're providing for them. At least, you're promoting the idea that, hey, you don't see how much I work for you. But that's not what they need to see. That's what they need to see before that is love, care, attention, and presence. Emotional presence and warmth. That's what they will care about. By all means, teach them the value of things, but they won't care about money until they're much older. Other things that parents think that children want. Toys! Yes, possessions, material possessions. Bribe the hell out of them. Yeah, of course. But in my career as a therapist, I don't remember hearing anyone being traumatized by not having enough toys. And don't get me wrong, some of my patients have had incredibly miserable childhoods in terms of poverty. They don't talk about that. They don't talk about the poverty so much. What they do talk about is relationships, warmth. Children are incredibly adaptable. What they cannot really, truly adapt to is the lack of warmth and connection. They can adapt to lack of money. They can adapt to lack of toys. They won't like it, but you know, it's that discussion between niceties and necessities, right? Toys are niceties. Of course, they'll never admit them. You know, that's my tip to you. They won't admit them that those are niceties. They will behave as if, you know, if they don't have toys or if you take toys away from them, oh my God, it's, you know, World War III. Some children do, some don't. But in reality, all children will prize love and warmth and connection much more. And active listening from you as a parent to them, right? What else do people think that, you know, the children want? A good education. Again, don't get me wrong, a good education is wonderful, but the best education, what do you think will give them? The best education will provide avenues of developing and discovering their own creativity. It will, you know, foster the same things that we're talking about now. Creativity, exploration, validation, you know, they want and need to be praised, and stability through rules and responsibilities. That's it. That is it. In principle, this is all it takes. And if you abide by these laws, it's very simple, right? Again, it's as simple as, you know, a rocket spews gases out of its back and it flies. I know in practice it's more complicated. Again, I have a child. I know what I'm talking about, and I've seen it. But I've also seen how it can be done well. I've also seen how it can be done right. I've also seen relationships between parents and teenagers that are incredibly good. Yes, it's possible, right? What else? What else? Oh yeah, this is a big one. This is a really big one. The most anti-intuitive thing that can happen, is that parents think that children want parents, they need parents to stay together. Stick it out. Stick it out. You don't get along. Who cares? You have children. Stay together for the children. Oh my God. That is one of the worst things you can do. And hear me out. I am angry when I say that, because I've seen countless couples that have done that. And I've had those children as patients. Some of those children came to me as adults, and they realized that, yeah, their parents shouldn't have stayed together, right? And this is tricky. Why? Because, of course, in an ideal world, what the child actually wants is for the couple to stay together and be harmonious. But in the real world, sometimes relationships don't work out. And you can't will them into working out. You can be, you know, trying all the positive thinking and applying everything, and just those two people put together, they do not make a couple, and they do not make a happy relationship. And if that is the case, the best case scenario for that child or those children is for the parents to split up, remain in their role as parents, but split up in their roles of adults being together in a couple. Because otherwise you send the wrong message. You send the message of internal turmoil, internal conflict. There's a lot of contradiction there, because what you feel as an adult, I can assure you that the couple feels as well, the child feels as well. So that's a really bad thing to do. You need to look reality in the face, and the reality is you and your partner are not able to make this relationship work, and you need to look it in the face and, you know, take it in and make it yours, because it is yours. You like it or not, this is reality. And it's better to adapt to a reality than to, adopt the ostrich position, burying your head in the sand, pretending it's not there. It doesn't work like that. Children feel everything. And they will go into so many complications, thinking that it's their fault, that they can do something, that they should do something. They will try to intervene between the two of you, especially if you're fighting. It will be so destructive. They will take this again as a model for what a couple means to be. And that will be so destructive because they will tend to replicate that into their own relationships when they are adults. Yeah, I know, it's a lot. So, let's wrap it up and let's focus on what you need to take out of this. 1, warmth, emotional connection. Give your child these. Make sure you spend, maybe not necessarily every day, but most days, enough quality time. 20, 30, 40 minutes per day. Connection time. You don't do anything else. You just devote that time to your child. You don't need to fall into the other extreme and think, oh my God, the weekend comes and I need to devote 8 hours of quality time to them. No. It's good, but actually in a way it becomes excessive because you're neglecting your needs as a human being. And that transmits, again, a wrong message of self-sacrifice. And what that will make happen is that they will tend to sacrifice themselves when they become adults. So, no. So, enough time, presence. Try to see if the couple that you're in is really a couple that you would be in, you would want to be in, regardless of the children. If the children didn't exist, if you didn't have children, what would you do? Would you stay or would you go? If you stayed, stay. If you would rather go if you didn't have children, then it's best for you to leave. Until that point, make sure that you've tried everything, right? Couples therapy, individual therapy. By the way, if you think what's the best thing you can invest in for your children, try to guess it. It's your personal therapy. It is your personal therapy, your individual therapy, because you bring all that emotional luggage with you. And that really makes the deepest of impacts. And we all want to leave a legacy to our children. I encourage you to not leave a legacy of pain, to not leave a legacy of emotional shit that you haven't dealt with and you subconsciously pour onto them. Not by intention, I'm not saying you intend to do that, but whatever you don't really heal in yourself, you're going to indirectly transmit to your children. You don't want that for them. Solve your issues so that you can actually be a better human being and a happier human being. And if you're happy, they will be happy too. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope that all these subjects that we've discussed will be, interesting and actually get your gears going, get your thoughts going. And I hope that that will result in you doing things maybe a little bit differently. I'll see you in the next video.